30th Annual Evening for Peace. I am Jill Dexter, Foundation Board Member, and I'm so very pleased to be here with all of you wonderful, great group of peace activists. On the entire board of directors, I would like to thank our principal architects for sponsors for this evening, our architects for peace, Sherry Melchiori and Marion Rosewells. And we thank all of those sponsors for helping make this evening possible. And a big thank you to our mayor, Helene Schneider, for helping us out with the auction and being so generous with her time. And I'd also like to recognize our state senator, Hannah Beth Jackson. This is so great that she's here too. And of course, I'd like to thank our dinner committee, Sherry Melchiori, Adrienne Davis for the beautiful flower arrangements, Leilon McGrath, Ann Shoei, Susan Garner, Gail Teton Landis, and a special thanks to our brilliant leader, Deborah Rowitz. Now, so anyway, we have a great program tonight. We are so happy to be honoring Rabbi Leonard Beerman, and this is so fantastic. And I understand his wife is here and his daughters, and so it's going to be a very special evening for you.
Hi, my name is Olivia Wong. I'm 22 years old, and I was a former intern at the Nuclear Age Peace Foundation 2 years ago. I want to start by telling you a story. Just a few days ago, I was in San Diego at a dinner party with my friends. We were all new acquaintances, and we hadn't really known each other quite well yet. And the host had asked me before the dinner party to come up with an interesting question. And I thought, what would I ask? I got to the dinner party, and we all went around the room, and we asked our questions. What superpower would you have? Do you prefer email or phone to communicate? What about this one? How would you solve world poverty? My favorite question was, what was your first job? And this question just made everyone light up with smiles around the room, because they went back and retracted into their memories, into the years where they were shoveling snow in front of driveways in Michigan, 10 feet deep in the winters, waking up before school. I went back into my mind. I thought, what was my first unofficial job? Well, I sold hot dogs in a stand when I was in elementary school. And then later, I sold shoes at a flea market in Northern California. I love this question because it really made me reflect on my life and the experience that I've had to this point. My first real job was the internship at the Nuclear Age Peace Foundation. I still remember how it started. I was in a class at UC Santa Barbara taking an intro to political science when I was given a prompt, write about a current event in the world. And I thought, I can do this. Or I could try and write about something that I have absolutely no conception of. So I wrote about Iranian nuclear proliferation. I had no idea what it was. I was still trying to figure out what the word proliferation meant. And I absorbed like a blank slate every single document, article, journalistic piece, and video that I found on the NAPF's actual archive, the nuclear files, and you can go to that today. And I was so infatuated. I never thought I'd come home to my parents and start talking about nuclear weapons. It was just, something you never really bring up at the dinner table. But I loved it. And so that night, I went home and I applied for the internship program. And I submitted my paper as a writing sample. And 2 weeks later, I was called back and I was told I had an interview. And it was the best feeling in the world. I still remember the first day when I took the bus from UC Santa Barbara, and I was on my way downtown to the office. It took an hour, and I thought to myself, okay, get ready for this. Treat every single day as if it was the first day on the job. And to this day, I still live by that mantra. I started writing, blogging, doing research on nuclear weapons, non-proliferation, ballistic missiles, words that I couldn't say. I tried a lot of different things, and I grew so much as a person. I started doing independent projects, like starting my own youth coalition on social media platforms called Youth for a Nuclear Weapons Free World. We were, my friends and I, 3 other interns, were accepted to attend a conference. I didn't even have the gas money to get there. It was in San Diego. Yet the Nuclear Age Peace Foundation gave me that money, enough so we could actually attend the conference. And the 4 of us went, and that night we were awarded by the Clinton Foundation for starting a student commitment to action at the Clinton Global Initiative University. I learned writing, advocacy, communication skills, but most importantly, the philosophy of the Nuclear Age Peace Foundation helped to develop my own character and redefine my character. It taught me to be someone who genuinely cares about other people and the mission of the organization. I learned how to do the right thing because it's the right thing to do, not because I think I want to do it, not because it's going to appease someone else or that it will comply with the law. I learned humility, honesty, integrity, and compassion. I learned to strive to achieve great, big, lofty goals with limited resources, persistence, perseverance, resiliency. And I acquired leadership skills by seeing all of the other exemplary leaders in the office every single day. My internship was the spark that ignited my life. In the last 2 years since I left the internship program, I've traveled to 15 countries independently. I've been to Fukushima, Japan, where I conducted independent research after the nuclear disaster and worked on a disaster relief response team helping affected people from the Tohoku earthquake and tsunami. I started a nonprofit organization. We went, a group of us, 11 students, that I recruited to go to Nepal, and I lived in a Himalayan village where I built the first school and 2 conjoining classrooms in a post-conflict village that had been torn apart by a bloody civil war. We served 250 children there, and this year it will continue to increase. And just recently, actually, I returned from the Syrian border where I was working at the Zachri refugee camp. It's the largest camp in the world. It houses about 180,000 Syrian refugees who are fleeing from the ongoing civil conflict. And I went there by myself, hoping to deliver 2 prefabricated housing units. And with great luck and God's will, we did it. Thank you. Today I serve as an AmeriCorps member. I work with an organization in San Diego that helps to motivate child survivors of war, refugee youth, and recent immigrant youth rebuild their lives after relocating to San Diego. We use soccer, education, and ecotherapy. I share this story today because I want to reflect on some of the life skills that I learned, some of the philosophies of the organization that has redefined who I am and where I want to go. I share this story because I want to inspire all of the students in this room to go home tonight to the website napf.org and apply for this internship program. Before I started the internship program, I wasn't involved in anything in my school. I wasn't in a club, and I wasn't surely in any type of leadership position. My life has completely changed since it, and I really hope that students will take this opportunity to apply. I also want to encourage every single community member, whether we a board member or someone who is sitting here for the first time and is just learning about the Nuclear Age Peace Foundation, to get involved and to do something meaningful. Because what my internship taught me was to do something that's more than myself, to be a leader by example, and to live a life of compassion, kindness, and integrity, and justice. And I think you can do that. You can participate today. All you have to do is go outside before the silent auction ends and support the silent auction, because all of the proceeds will go back into investing in students in this room and the dozens more that are still waiting to get an internship like the one I had. There was one project that I worked on as an intern, and that was editing and proofreading over like 200 quotes about peace, conflict resolution, humility, and compassion. And It was a pretty tedious project. I worked on it for a while. It was later published. Speaking of Peace, it's a book edited and compiled by President David Krieger. And I remember one quote that was in it, and it still holds true today. Every seed is a seed of hope. Once planted, it has the power to grow and inspire others. So please plant that seed today by investing in our students. Thank you.
Tonight we're honoring a very distinguished peace leader, Rabbi Leonard Beerman. But first, I'd like to introduce our own very special peace leader, the president of the Nuclear Age Peace Foundation, David Krieger.
Good evening, and Jill, thank you so much for all the energy and enthusiasm you've brought to this event. Beautiful job. And let me mention, we also have honorary hosts, chairs of our honorary host committee, who are Herb and Elaine Kendall, who are sitting here, and Stanley and Betty Scheinbaum, who can't be here this evening. So let me add my welcome to our 30th annual Evening for Peace. 30 years went by really, really quickly. But in that period, we've honored some extraordinary people, and we do so again this evening. 31 years ago, when we founded the Nuclear Age Peace Foundation, we had a dream that citizens could make a difference in the world on two of the most important issues that face humanity. And those are the finding a way to peace in the nuclear age and finding a way to abolish nuclear weapons. Since our founding, the world has shed 50,000 nuclear weapons. And that's a rather unbelievable number. So that's the good news. The bad news is there's still 17,000 nuclear weapons in the world. One is too many. 100, scientists tell us that 100 nuclear weapons, if used in a regional war between India and Pakistan on each other's cities, 50 nuclear weapons each, would result in having soot rise up in the atmosphere, blocking the warming sunlight, shortening growing seasons, causing crop failures, and leading, they predict, to 1 billion deaths worldwide. So we're not out of this yet. There's still far too many nuclear weapons in the world, and our goal is and will remain nuclear zero. I want to say a few words in addition to those Olivia has made, directed to the young people who are with us tonight. I have just a few words of advice. First, I'd like to suggest that you think of yourselves as citizens of the world. Embrace the world in all its magnificence and do something meaningful in the world. Olivia, I think what you've done is remarkable, and what you've done shows leadership, but those possibilities are open to all of you young people who are here tonight. Secondly, I'd like to suggest that you be the leaders of today. Surely lots of people have told you, and perhaps it's obvious, that you will be leaders of tomorrow by necessity, but we can't wait until tomorrow for your leadership. We really need it now. I speak metaphorically, but I urge you, step up and become leaders today to build a world that will be just and fair and decent for all. Third, I want to suggest that you learn more from the Nuclear Age Peace Foundation about how to strengthen your vision and your skills to make a difference in the world. And you can learn more about us at wagingpeace.org as well as napf.org. Fourth, I want to suggest that you always choose hope. Hope is a key to action, and action is a key to hope. And if you choose hope, you'll be involved, you'll be part of the solution. If you don't choose hope, you're liable to be silently part of the problem. And finally, never give up. The one word that I think is most important in accomplishing any great goal in the world is perseverance. And I urge you, pick your goals carefully and then persevere in trying to achieve them. So I have a few words also for our supporters who are here today, and also our supporters who might see this on tape, on videotape at some later point. I want you to care, I want to thank you for caring so deeply. I want to thank you for joining your dreams of a better world with our dreams. And I want to thank you for making possible what we do each day to build peace and to abolish nuclear weapons. You know, I think that it is a rare and beautiful thing to have an organization that is dedicated to such idealistic and necessary goals in the world. And such organizations don't exist everywhere, and they have to be nurtured and helped and supported, and they give rise to some fantastic possibilities. And I think when we began the Nuclear Age Peace Foundation 31 years ago, we had a glimpse of its possibilities. But I think now, as we've developed and as we've matured and as we've become a place that can give guidance to young people, engage in projects throughout the world, help provide a better vision of who we could be if we really set our minds to it, I think, at least I realize, that much, much more is possible. As we take each step, new horizons open up. But organizations like the Nuclear Age Peace Foundation have to be protected and supported. Now, it is my extraordinary honor and my pleasure to introduce the person we're honoring this evening, Rabbi Leonard Beerman. We honor him as the co-founder with George Regas of the Interfaith Center to Reverse the Arms Race. An interfaith center that made it clear that nuclear weapons are a paramount moral issue of our time. We honor him as a wise and a compassionate man. We honor him as a man of conscience and of uncommon decency. When peace has needed a voice, Rabbi Beerman has spoken. When justice has needed an ally, Rabbi Beerman has stood firm. When the dark clouds of war have gathered, Rabbi Beerman has been a ray of light. When nuclear weapons have put all that we love and treasure at risk, Rabbi Beerman has been a source of hope and moral strength. So, on behalf of the directors and the members of the Nuclear Age Peace Foundation, it's our great pleasure to present Rabbi Leonard Beerman with the Nuclear Age Peace Foundation's 2013 Distinguished Peace Leadership Award. While he comes to the stage, I also want to say that the California Senate honors him tonight as well.
Well, I thank David Krieger for all of those kind words, and thanks to all of you. I feel so grateful to be able to stand in your company and to know that I've joined the processional of those who've come before me, a quite distinguished processional. And I'm not sure that I'm worthy of being among some of the names to be found there, but I do feel worthy of being there among with the name of Dr. George Regas, who's a very, very dear friend of mine, and who was honored here some 5 years ago. And I'm especially grateful to your president, David Krieger. David has a deep, pervasive, ultimate concern to which he has dedicated the full force of his creative energy and imagination. David has had this crazy idea to which he has committed himself. He wants to save the earth and all its inhabitants from self-destruction. He wants to make the planet a more peaceable habitation for all of us and for our children and grandchildren after us. Surely that's something to be celebrated, and so I do so. Now here I bring you the words, perhaps familiar to many of you, of the beloved poet Stanley Kunitz, written when he was somewhere on his way to the 100 years he lived before his death a few years ago. I've walked through many lives, some of them my own, and I'm not who I was, though some principle of being abides from which I struggle not to stray. When I look behind, as I am compelled to look before I can gather strength to proceed on my journey, I see the milestones dwindling toward the horizon. And here am I, an aged rabbi who, like a peddler with a pack on his back, wherever he goes, comes bearing a pack of notions, some of them very old and some of them very familiar, I'm sure, to you. Love thy neighbor as thyself. It hath been told thee, O man, what the Lord doth require of thee, only to do justice, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with your God. And they shall beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war any more. And they shall sit everyone under his vine and fig tree, with none to make them afraid. If I am not for myself, who will be for me? And being for myself alone, what am I? And if not now, when? And these words written some 1900 years ago, an old commentary on the Bible, where God is portrayed showing Adam all that has been created, and says to Adam, "See my works, how fine and excellent they are. All that I have created has been given to you. Remember this, and do not corrupt and desolate the world, for if you corrupt it, there is no one after you to set it right." Those are ancient words and ancient visions. They come out of the sacred books of the Jewish civilization, but surely they embody ideals and visions held sacred by Christians and Muslims and people of other faiths and people of non-belief as well. And to voice them here is to remember that we live in a world in which the ideals of love and fellowship and peace and justice and care for the planet are daily being mutilated throughout the world, even here in our land, even here in Santa Barbara. For we live in a time of broken ideals, a broken world, a fragmented humanity which needs to be made whole. Of all the words in the Bible, those that have been profoundly significant to all of us associated with the purposes of the Nuclear Age Peace Foundation are to be found in the concluding chapter of the book of Deuteronomy. Now, in churches everywhere, it is customary to read scripture from a book, but in synagogues, we Jews read every week from a parchment scroll we call Torah. The Torah is written in Hebrew on a scroll which bears the first 5 books of the Bible: Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy, the Pentateuch. And each scroll is written by hand, the work of a scribe who reverently and lovingly copies every word of it. According to a rigorous tradition, the scribe must use a quill to serve him as a pen, so that the ink will touch with tenderness the pages of the parchment. For the Torah and the Bible it introduces is a book of peace. Only a quill, no metal, is permitted to be the instrument of the scribe's work. For metal is the material of violence, of war. It may not be used in composing the book of peace. Wherever the scribe has done his work throughout the centuries and neared the completion of it, as he reached the closing chapters of the 5th book, the book of Deuteronomy, his quill has brought to the parchment these words of danger and challenge, which, ever since they were first spoken, have reverberated throughout the centuries. See, I have set before you life and death, the blessing and the curse. Therefore, choose life that you may live, you and your seed after you. To speak of choosing the way of blessing and life compels us to reckon with all that threatens life in our time, but also to raise the fearful question as to whether our civilization, so visibly incoherent and in decline, is not itself in the throes of death. Is such a thing really possible? We have been so infused with the conceit that we could escape the remorseless fate that has overtaken all previous social systems, that we, with all of our sophistication, with all of our so-called exceptionalism, that we, with our science and our industry, our democracy, our ingenuity, could violate the iron law of history. For history has surely shown us that every civilization has perished sooner or later. human social systems with their members anxious, insecure, restless, swollen with pride, driven by the will to power and inordinate appetites, corrupted by self-intoxication and self-deception, sooner or later have sinned against the laws of proportion and harmony and have plunged into decay and self-destruction. Now I ask you, what of our civilization? Small wonder that we should be uncertain. What hurts and confuses us is the lurking suspicion that because of what we have done to the air and the earth and the cities and the children and to one another, we may possibly have been condemned to live in an age which will make no significant contribution to the human spirit. What hurts and confuses us is the knowledge that such a huge proportion of our resources, our ingenuity, our wisdom, our creative energy, leave untouched the abiding problems of human beings who live in this troubled time. Technological processes uninhibited by any human values other than the dream of total security have committed great and even smaller powers to collective mechanisms of destruction. But the dream of total security has produced only the reality of total vulnerability. And as for nuclear weapons and the several powers that possess them, we know, as I think it was George Kennan who once said, nuclear weapons cannot bring us security, they can only bring us revenge. If only we could abolish this sterile dream and sadistic nightmare. We have fed the heart on fantasies, the poet Yeats once said. The heart's grown brutal from the fair, more substance in our enmities than in our love. And all of this rooted in the conviction that nothing must stand in the way of the demonstration of our power. Power to coerce, Norman Cousins once wrote. Power to harm. Power that intimidates intelligence. Power that conquers language and renders other forms of communication incoherent and irrelevant. Power becoming a theology, admitting no other gods before it. And surely we know that the policies to which we have been so slavishly obedient end up, as always, constituting a form of violence against the poor, the ever-growing kingdom of the poor. Yet we know there is another power within us, a power that will enable us to say no to the forces that have ruled over our thinking and our feeling, and it is the power of our own critical intelligence, of our own decency, the power of the human spirit, a spiritual power present in every human being, and it can be actualized. And we shall have to actualize this power without pretending away our need for security, or that we do indeed live in a brutal world brimming with anger and suspicion and adversaries. There is a story that members of the clergy like to tell. It concerns a minister, it could be a rabbi or a priest or an imam, a minister who wants to stage an object lesson for the members of the congregation, and placed a lion and a lamb in a cage together outside the entrance, let us say, to the church. And they lived together, they lived in peace. And people came from miles around to see this incredible phenomenon. And finally, the mayor of the city came himself with a delegation, intrigued by this feat, to inquire how the minister managed to bring off this trick. And the minister said, "Oh, there's no trick at all. All you have to do is put in a fresh lamb from time to time." Well, in the real world, We know, do we not, that lions and lambs do not live together peacefully. And even the prophet Isaiah, when he spoke of such a possibility, was referring to a far distant time, a messianic time. And that's where the rub is for us. How to face up to the truth of this real world of brutality, fear, mutual rivalry, the need for security, and still retain hope, still work for something different. I'm competing with, with other noises here. Still work for something different. How shall we do that? We need some troubled people. We need some agitated people. We need men and women who are not ashamed to be sensitive and tender with one another. We need those who are willing to become members of a community dedicated to each other's fulfillment. We need men and women who have the courage to be afraid of all those forces which have removed our humanity. And as for the vast store of nuclear weapons, we need men and women who can maintain a firm conviction that it is not so wild a dream, to borrow the words of Norman Corwin, that we can negotiate not only to do away with the nuclear arms race, but also that we can abolish nuclear arms altogether. We must not let... Thank you. We must not let this hope be crushed amidst the powers and the principalities. And that is why the work of the Nuclear Age Peace Foundation is so very, very important. And something more, we need to give voice to the abandoned and forgotten and preserve a vision that can transcend the dangerous imagery of victory and defeat, a vision of a genuinely decent, humane society in a genuinely decent world, and that we can ultimately approach a great common tenderness. How shall I thank you for the gift of the honor you are giving to me this evening? What I could have said at the very beginning, and it might have been worthy and sufficient for this occasion, are Shakespeare's words. I can no other answer make, but thanks and thanks and ever thanks. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Rabbi Beerman, for that marvelous speech and for all you've done for these so many years. You know, I'm very taken tonight by both for Rabbi Beerman's speech, for David's first 30 years as the leader of the Nuclear Age Peace Foundation, and I want to say to Olivia Wong for her marvelous comments and for what appears to be a great start to a career as an activist. That's real important to me here tonight because I really want to talk for a fair part of this little piece I'm going to do about activism, about getting involved, about being part of something big and something important that's now on the way. So let me start with a simple thank you to all of you here in the room tonight who've been the longtime supporters of the Nuclear Age Peace Foundation. Everyone in this room, through your presence, your voices in support, your financial support, in support of a nuclear weapons-free world, have enabled David and his team to become really one of the leading voices in the world on the subject of limitation of and eradication of nuclear weapons. Your support has been what has made this happen, and it's extremely, extremely important that we have your support going forward. At times, I'm sure many of you have wondered, is the mission of the foundation simply too daunting, eliminating nuclear weapons? Is it simply too large? Are there too many hurdles, and are those hurdles too high? I'll admit from time to time I've wondered the same thing myself, But every time I sort of go to that place, I start thinking about the statistics. You've heard some tonight from David, and I'll give you another one. Today, 1 in 6 children, that's 1 in 6, lives under imminent threat of death from nuclear weapons. That is unconscionable. This is something that cannot exist in our world, and it means that we as a group have to continue, and we must succeed in our mission to eliminate these terrible weapons. Tonight I want to talk a little bit about historic moments, about the opportunity to say, I was there when. I was a part of it when a great thing happened. I want to start that conversation by talking a little bit about NAPF, the foundation, and its role in the world on this subject. For me, there's really been a profound sea change at the foundation taking place over, say, the last couple of years. And I've thought about sort of when I first noticed this, and it probably dates back to a dinner I had where Annie and I attended a dinner with David and Carolee Krieger and Daniel Ellsberg. It was a marvelous night. Anytime you can spend a couple hours listening to Daniel Ellsberg, it's a great and wonderful thing, and it certainly was, but it was something else that night that really caught my attention. We got to, partway through the evening, and there was sort of a lull in the conversation. David leaned over to me and said, Steve, I have to tell you something as the chair of the foundation so that you won't be surprised. Now, that's not usually what I hear from David in the middle of a dinner conversation, but it was important, and what he was aiming at was the fact that after a lot of very serious, I think, personal debate, David and Carolee had decided to join Daniel, Father Vitali, and Cindy Sheehan, plus a group of others, in an act of civil disobedience, crossing the line onto Vandenberg Air Force Base to protest the nuclear missile launch. And of course, 2 nights later, they did it. They were arrested. Right on. And it was such a profound moment in my mind. Here was a man who has spent now 30 years on this issue at the foundation saying, enough is enough. We're demanding change. This has to stop. So for me, I think that was a really key marking point. And I have to tell you, ever since that time, I would say there's been a quicker pace of foot at the foundation every day. There's a greater degree of activity and participation between board members and the team. I really hope you have a chance to go by 1622 Anacapa and see what's going on there. It is simply electric today. This is a group that really believes they can change the world. They really can make it happen. And there are things afoot that I think make that an absolutely realistic goal. And this is really going to be the most important point of my speech tonight. Right now, there is I can't think of a better word, it's a gloriously inspiring program that has been developed at the foundation. It's been going on and being under development for about 2 years now. When this is over, there's got to be a book written about it. Today, we literally have team members traveling the globe, sometimes at great personal risk, setting this whole concept and this whole plan up. I can tell you that this is an activity that is legal, it's ethical, it's moral, and it's absolutely in line with the mandate of the foundation. I'm so excited by what's going on, and I so wish I could tell you the details. But it's very important to know that confidentiality in the coming weeks and months are going to be absolutely critical. And for that reason, we're unable to give you the specific facts. We can tell you some very important parts of what's going on. Amongst them, and perhaps the most important, what we're doing has never, ever been done before by any group. This is something brand new. It's quite extraordinary, and we think will have profound impact. It's going to involve the best, the brightest, and the most influential in the nuclear abolition movement. And it's going to happen on a global and national stage. It's going to happen with great media presence. So this is an exciting time, lots of things going on at your foundation that we're very, very excited about, and we think will have great impact when it happens. Now, while I can't tell you the specifics, what I can show you, and we're delighted to do this tonight, to show you some of the first media work that will be aired and used in the campaign. This is sort of our pre-launch campaign information. So, Sandy, I think we're about ready to run a couple of videos here.
a drink with John and Claire. That will bring us back to still. Oh, 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 oh. Let me hear him.
Hi, Paul.
Good girl.
Oh, is she a happy dog? My goodness.
Good girl.
My God, I have never seen her like this.
She was like that last time. Good girl. Oh.
This is brilliant work that's being done. And really, these videos say it all. We can make all the brilliant, logical arguments about our cause, but just like any moment of great social change, whether we're talking about abolition, the civil rights movement, suffrage, gay marriage, you name it, it isn't until good people really stand up and say enough is enough that things actually change. And we say it's insane to live in a world where you can be vaporized by a nuclear weapon at any moment. We think it's nuts. In fact, nukes are nuts. Yeah, nukes are nuts. And that's going to be the slogan of this campaign. You're going to see us saying it, you're going to see us acting on it, and you're going to see this in the media on a very wide basis for the next while. And we hope tonight that all of you will join with us in pushing that message forward. And I'm going to come back to that point in your role in this in a few minutes. But right now, let's share a couple more messages from two of our very good friends at NEPF.
Scott, so what do you think about nuclear weapons?
I don't really think about nuclear weapons. I think that's the problem. No one wants to think about something that can take us all out in a heartbeat. Nukes are nuts.
We spend billions and billions of dollars on instruments of death and destruction when a small fraction would ensure that children everywhere had clean water to drink, enough food to eat, a decent home, decent education. Nukes are nuts.
Is that we can have those kinds of instruments and pieces of information in front of you on a very short time frame. That's the first time I've seen the video of the Archbishop, and I know that happened in the last several hours, I believe. So marvelous that it could happen that quickly. So now, here's a challenge to all of you. Something you can do tonight. Before you leave, take out that cell phone. Usually people are telling you to turn them off. We want you to turn them on. Take a little video, 6 to 15 seconds, something that will go on Instagram, something that can go on Twitter, something that can tell the world what you think or why you think nukes are nuts. It's a simple process. We're going to use this as part of our campaign. And for all the students in the room, here's the moment where you get to be really involved. You get to be part of this. We want to use your social media skills to try and promote this message, to get it out on the street, make sure people understand what it is we're really about. So, I want to come back to my original statement, which was the opportunity to say, I was there when, I was a part of it. Well, this is one way. I'll give you a couple other sort of things to think about. Annie and I have had the very good fortune to have been involved in a couple of activist campaigns over the years. One of Annie's most prized possessions is a T-shirt that she got when she was an AIDS street worker in Canada from the first AIDS March. It's a remarkable sort of family heirloom, I would say, at this point. It's something where we've used to teach our kids about activism and about the importance of passing it on, of being part of the solution. And we use that in our lives on a regular basis. It's a subject of great pride, and more importantly, it's a way to pay forward, to pass on the message of how important it is to be active in what you believe in. And can you imagine, having been in the room, having a memento from that very famous evening at Irving Stowe's house in Vancouver, when a group that, frankly, was probably not dissimilar to the group at the foundation, where the group decided they were going to go buy a boat and sail it up to Amchitka, Alaska to protest the nuclear testing there. And somebody in the room at some point in that evening got up and said, we have to do this for peace. Let's make it a green peace. Moments of great change are hard to predict, and it's hard to know when you're in them. In my heart of hearts, I believe we're in one of those moments right now. The quality of this campaign is so good, the idea is so strong, that we believe we really have an opportunity to change. You never really know what's going to occur, but the opportunity to be here, to say, I was there when it happened, I was part of it, really is upon us tonight. And so, tonight, our wonderful mayor, Aline Schneider, is going to be conducting an auction. As part of that auction, we're going to be handing out these lovely T-shirts. You'll notice the quick costume change on stage here. You'll see some of the other folks around the room are also wearing them. These are limited edition. They will only be issued tonight. They have the date of this meeting on them. And they'll be the reward for participating in the coming auction. So, please join us. Contribute to the effort. Acquire a piece of history, add your voice to our campaign, and declare that enough is enough, nukes are nuts, our governments must eliminate the threat of nuclear weapons from our children's future. Let's make sure no child has to live under the threat of a mushroom cloud again. Thank you very much.